our little Sanga. Oh, Gopi's here. Welcome, Gopi. So yes, my nephew is Gaurachandra. He's 5 today, and it's the first time he's ever had like a proper birthday party because when he was younger, he was a bit too young, and then it was the pandemic. So this is the first time he's having friends over for his birthday, and I've been here to help my sister with everything, and she made a pretty incredible cake. I'll share a picture of it with you all later. But just to be clear, we'll do a shorter connection today, a shorter Sangha. Originally, I scheduled an hour, but we might finish a little earlier than that. It's been a very hectic weekend, and I still have to go from here back home tonight. Last night, we had a beautiful event at the Bhakti Center, Heart Song, which I hope some of you who might be in some proximity to New York might be able to be there at some point. But yeah, it was really wonderful. And so today, just catching up and birthdaying, and yeah, very happy to see you all here today. So Gopi, yes, I did greet you, but I see you weren't able to hear me. So greetings again. And also welcome, of course, to Nisha, to Naina, Anjali, Shubham, Badr, Dhiren, everyone that joined just recently. Oh, Jennifer, yay. Sydney and Brian.
Do we lose Jahnavi?
Yeah, I think so.
I hope she knows she's lost so she can get back in.
Right, rather than wait in awkward silence, I'll just definitely manage it for her. And maybe a good way to start is probably for each of you to just reflect on something you're grateful for today in the Bhakti path.
Gopi, thank you.
Jahnavi's back. Yeah, she's back. Okay, back to you.
Thank you so much. That was seamless. I actually thought that some of you were having internet trouble, and then I realized there's something in common here. That's me, and my Wi-Fi must have gone out. Not sure what happened there. Thank you for taking over. That's true leadership. Yeah, you finished the question for me, but I was just going to reflect on the month that has passed. It's quite nice having the Sangha. I mean, it's nice to have it at the beginning of the month too, but coming to the end of the month, we get a chance to look back and reflect on how it's been and share that together. So this month, I was curious if any of you tried the meditation leading up to the Gaur Purnima festival. I know I sent the recording just a week before. Did anybody manage to do that even for one of the days to listen to that recording in the days leading up? You can give a little wave if you did. I definitely tried to do it. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Would anyone like to share something about that, how that was for them, or any reflection on it? Was it something that helped you? You could just raise your hand. In the meantime, while you're deciding if you want to speak, I'll say for me, as much as when you have an active practice, a sadhana in bhakti. Sorry, I'm sorry, 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, there's a lot going on, as I said. As much as when you have an active practice, that's something that, is a source of refuge and consistency. At the same time, it's very easy for these things to become just routine and sort of just going through the motions. And so sometimes adding in a new element, even if it's something very small, especially something that encourages contemplation, real meditation, because anything repetitive, the mind can go into autopilot. And one of the angas or the limbs of bhakti is smaranam, remembrance, that contemplation. That's not just it's not just sort of like remembering a fact or something. It's a real, there's a real depth to it. So that's why I particularly appreciate trying to learn songs and verses and prayers, because they tend to sort of this image just came to mind. I'm doing a lot of cooking. That seems to be my life these days. So I don't know if any of you have a cast iron vessel. So, the cast iron gets seasoned by, many coatings of oil or whatever you will put on it, and becomes like a non-stick surface. So I just had this vision of my mind being like a cast iron, and it needs to get coated with many coatings of this smaranam, of all these impressions and stimuli that can. Yeah, I don't know if the analogy works that well, because I don't know what the non-stick. Maybe we move through life and all the bad things don't stick to us. I don't know. I have to work on that one a bit. But yeah, I found that even just me asking you to do that meditation, that helped me to commit to doing it myself. Whereas if I had just been doing it on my own, I might have been like, oh well, I did it 2 days, and then so. Yeah, did anyone else have a reflection on it? Anyone who did try it? Jen?
Yeah, I wanted to share that because right now there's a lot going on in my life. So there's a lot of new things. I just, like, it's not as new, but in January I started to be, first time in my life, fully self-employed. And
Wow.
I'm still like, every week, like I'm growing more into it. But also like on a personal level, there's a lot going on right now with my family, with my parents, some really heavy things. So it gave me like a really nice stability,
Mm.
because sometimes I feel when there's so much going on, then I feel bad because I don't really have time for like a stable sadhana, because I'm not in the right mindset.
Yeah.
But I thought I could commit to it because I think when you know that a lot of people are doing it as well,
Yeah.
it's like a positive peer pressure thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was very helpful for me.
That's really wonderful. Yeah, stability, and also something that seems like realistic for fitting it in with your day and your schedule. And I think I felt too, when it's, okay, this is only going to be 5 minutes, like it's really is short. And you just gave me the thought that maybe this is something we could practice in our little Patreon Sanga. We could have a different meditation every month or every 2 weeks and try and practice that be a thing that we think about, first thing when we wake up in the morning. I literally did it lying in my bed when I just woke up, because sometimes I know if I don't do it right then, something else will happen. I'll start thinking about something else. And yeah. Would anybody else like to share their experience? Henry Cantoro said, we must have missed it somehow, but we learned the beautiful song with the 12 names of Chaitanya Nityananda. Yes, that's what I was speaking about as a meditation. It is a meditation, but it's also a song. So yeah. Well, if you didn't get around to trying it, that's completely fine. As always, it's just a suggestion and sharing things that inspire me, in case it is inspiring to you too, and touches on something that is supportive for you and your journey. Another big thing that then happened after that was the Gaur Purnima festival, or the celebration of it, whatever form it took for you. So for some people, they took part in a temple celebration or gathering, or for some people it was very much a home affair. I was almost part of like a 3-day festival, you could say, because at the Bhakti Center in New York, they did an outreach festival called Roots of Kirtan. And I was asked to give a talk at that festival. So for me, that's always something that's quite nerve-wracking to speak. Some people here may resonate with that as well, when you have to give like a lecture, so to speak. I always get very nervous, but it was again, and I encourage anyone here, if you're in a context where someone is asking you to speak on these topics, of course, on any topic, you know, it's a well-known fact that, you know, learning something in order to share it with somebody else, you assimilate it in a very different way. But particularly in the context of spiritual knowledge, it really does go in differently when you have to repeat it to someone else. It also is very challenging because it challenges your faith, the depth that you have. Like if you don't know it deeply, it will be very obvious to you when you're preparing to share it and speak to others. So it really helps to scrutinize, you know, where those gaps may be. Gopi, this was at the Bhakti Center, and the audience was a kind of a mix of people that normally come to the Bhakti Center, and then there were a lot of new people coming who had never been, many of them had never been to a festival at the Bhakti Center before. So yeah, it was kind of an overview of a little bit of the life of Sri Chaitanya, and an overview of the benefits and the importance of chanting and the Mahamantra specifically, also kind of from a personal perspective. Shubham was asking about the recording. Yeah, I can share the recording. Someone sent it to me. I don't think the class was very good, but it's good to share because, you know, it's good for the ego, even just to share things, even if you don't think it's good, and you can listen if you feel like it. So Gaur Purnima was a very wonderful festival for me, because the actual day of so this the festival I was speaking about was held 2 days before the full moon of Gaur Purnima, and then on the actual day, it was a very quiet day for me for most of the day, and that is a very different for me than how I grew up, because I grew up around Bhaktivedanta Manor, and you know, it was normal that on a festival day you go into the temple early in the morning, and the entire day till the evening you're there. There's something happening constantly. There's so many people. You're just very present, very actively engaged. But one of the things about that is that when you become very accustomed to that, especially when you grow up with that, number one, you take it for granted, and number two, it's just something which can make one a little bit passive, you know, because obviously, just like learning a verse or learning a song, a festive day is an opportunity for contemplation and meditation and for service and so many other things. Sometimes it can be more social than service or contemplation. And I know I was speaking this in another group, and to a friend who comes from a Jewish background, but who is now, you know, following the bhakti path. And he said, yeah, I really relate to that, because, you know, I remember Rosh Hashanah. I was saying how I remember at a certain age, when I was a teenager, going to the temple for a festival day like Gaur Purnima. I was worrying more about what am I going to wear, and pulling things out of my cupboard, and like thinking, how do I look and everything. And I know when you come into the temple, people are going to say, oh, you look so nice. And, you know, it's just very social. And he was saying, oh, that's how it used to be for me at the synagogue. So we were reflecting a little bit how sometimes to be very disconnected from that social environment can facilitate a bit of a deeper meditation. And this friend of mine, he happened to also be alone on the Gaur Purnima day, and he took the opportunity to perform some worship for, he has deities of Gauranga, Nityananda, and he had never really done like a festive worship before, bathing them and things. So he did that on his own. And for me, I had more of a chance to to read. I actually went for a very long walk in New York and was listening to many bhajans, many songs related to Sri Chaitanya that I know well. So I know them well enough that when I listen, I know the meaning, I know the words. And it was a really beautiful experience, actually. I highly recommend it. When there's, I mean, maybe some of you do this already, because I know perhaps through my music and through others, there's songs that are spiritual that are very meaningful to you. And when you go and you just walk and listen and meditate on the meaning, it's really profound. So that was my celebration of Gaur Purnima, and my meditation on it was really about not becoming complacent and remembering that life is very short and is finite, of course, this life, this body. And I was particularly in that meditation because some of you may have known as a very saintly person, sannyasi, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami. Some of you had heard of him or heard his kirtans. So he passed away just a few days after the Gaur Purnima festival. I think it was 2 days after. So knowing that this time was coming, and whenever anyone is in that sort of liminal space where they're about to depart from their body and they're in that extremely focused state, even if we have any degree of connection to them, even if we don't know them personally, but just hear from them or observe them, it facilitates such a beautiful and exemplary way. It's such a just such an incredible focus. Yeah, Gopi, you're saying he was an amazing singer at Radhadesh Mellows. Absolutely. He'll be so missed at that festival and in many festivals and gatherings around the world, because he would travel all year round. He was either in India, the US, South Africa, Australia, or elsewhere in Europe, especially Belgium and Holland. He had so many people that he deeply inspired, and his kirtans were legendary. And I was joking that at the Radhadesh Mellows festival in Belgium, they would usually every year schedule me to sing after him, because his kirtan would be so energetic and people would be jumping and hitting the ceiling and everything for like an hour. So they were like, oh, Jahnavi's very calm, so everyone will calm down naturally after that. So yeah, I was just a few days after that observing, he requested that the ceremony for his samadhi, his tomb, and his funeral rites and everything all be broadcast widely. It was, you can watch it back on YouTube, and not that it's something to watch for entertainment, obviously, but he wanted that people would be able to see it, to see what happens in these ceremonies, to be able to reap the benefit of witnessing such a ceremony, which it leaves a very deep impression in the heart. So I actually watched the whole thing, like 3 hours, I think. I skipped through a few little moments where it was just something just being repeated over and over, but pretty much watched the whole thing. And that has been sort of rippling in my heart, like like someone threw a little pebble there, but the ripples just keep continuing over these past weeks. So yeah, and of course my birthday was a few days ago, and birthdays are always also for me a contemplation of life and how fast life is passing by, and have I done enough? Am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things with the right state of mind and heart? So this is a little update of the past month for me. I would love to hear if there are any other things, either from what I shared today or big significant things that have happened for you. Anything you would like to share from the past month? You could raise your hand. Thanks, Gopi. Everyone's a little shy today. Oh, Greg, yeah. Let's hear from you, Greg.
I'm never that shy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I was, but I do have a nice situation. My niece just got out of the University of Milan. I mean, she's from South Jersey. She was raised in South Jersey, and she came down here with my brother. What was it? The week around Guru Purnima, and so she had been wanting some kind of spiritual something or another because she wasn't raised that way. I mean, we were recovered Catholics, and her mother, who had passed a couple of years ago at an early age, she was more impersonalist Buddhist and just kept everything out of the house. So I said, well, you want to go to the Krishna temple? You know, like we were walking on the Beltline here in Atlanta, and she was like, yeah, I really do. So I took her to Sunday Feast, and it was the day before Guru Purnima, sorry, I'm saying Purnima. Dora, she loved it. I mean, she was really getting into the whole thing. And then they announced, hey, tomorrow morning program starts at 4:30. And she was staying at our place. And she looks at me and she says, oh. And I'm like, you want to go tomorrow morning at 4:30? Really? I'm like, you got to get up at like 3:45 and you have to take a shower. And she's like, yeah, I do. And I mean, this is a 22-year-old person who
Wow.
10 or 11 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, so we went and it was amazing. She loved it. And Sveta at the temple handed her some japa beads. And after the ceremony, we did chanting together.
Yeah.
Looking out of my left eye over at her, and she's chanting for the first time in this amazing atmosphere.
Wow.
Deities. I mean, what an introduction, you know. I was so like moved and pleased, and Kylie Brown was there, and I got to introduce them because my niece was leaving like the next day, and I sent her off with a Gita and Chant and Be Happy, and another one of Prabhupada's books is I'm spacing right now, but yeah, so.
That's
And
wonderful.
then she just got into NYU grad school a week later. This is the best. And she's
Wow.
applied all over the place, right? And she's gonna take it. And I was like, you went to the temple and then you got this great news. This is kind of related. She goes, oh, I don't doubt it. And I said, not only that, you're literally gonna be living down the street from the Bhakti Center. And I said,
Yeah.
and she was like, oh my God, I can't, oh, this is amazing. Like, it was also fitting together so fast, and then my brother and I joked over the tuition of how much it's going to cost. And I said, yeah, she'll do these 3 years, you'll go broke. And then she's going to say, hey, Dad, I'm going to join the Hare Krishnas. And he said, yeah, I'm going to burn those beads. That's what's going to happen. Don't do that.
Wow.
So anyway, it was really sweet. I had no idea that her time coming here to see our daughter and us would have turned into this Krishna moment,
Wow.
It was really sweet. But thanks
Krishna
to
moment.
you all let me share that.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I look forward to meeting her. I'm sure I will now if she comes down to the Bhakti Center.
I'll send her your way.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you. That's really inspiring to hear. Gopi, love to hear from you.
Sure. Something happened 2 weeks ago, and I have to thank you for that, Jahnavi. So for the rest of you, well, I grew up in India, I was familiar with the genre of bhajans and congregational singing and participated. Never really got into this more subgenre of Vaishnava-based Nama Sankirtan and leading it, especially the ecstasy of it. Till 16 years ago, I stumbled across it, of all the places, at the Burning Man Festival in Black Rock City, Nevada, where there was a Krishna camp, and I wandered into it, and Jahnavi was singing there with Gauravani and Vishwambar Seth. And I was completely hooked, and I spent the entire festival hanging out at the camp, and the next year, and the next year. And then I started following them around, and I would go see Jahnavi and Gaura wherever they're playing. And then I started teaching myself how to lead kirtan on the harmonium. And it was my dream to actually go into a temple and lead a group of devotees in singing. I stated it as a goal in my annual goal setting exercise 3 years ago. But 2 weeks ago, I did it, and I did it with great ecstasy. I was like completely swept away in it. I didn't even realize
Wow.
I was singing. I was in the bow, yeah, totally in a meditative
Where were
trance
you, Gopi? Where were you
at the,
leading?
at the temple in Silicon Valley. It's in Mountain View, California.
Oh,
And
yeah.
right down the street from Google, actually. I could even walk to it.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. Uh,
Wow, I
which
still haven't
actually,
been to that temple.
yeah, I want to tell you a second story once I did that. So anyway, I did it. And after that, several of the devotees were like, wow, that was really beautiful meditative kirtan and should do it more often and keep it going. And it gave me the confidence, yes, we can all do it. But it was all initiated, believe it or not, the first time I met you 18 years ago in the most unlikely of places, right? At the Burning Man Festival, in the midst of all this chaos and craziness, there was this ocean, this island of devotion and peace. Uh, so thank you
Wow.
for that. The related story, since you asked where is it located, I have to tell you this. Growing up in India, everywhere there are temples and places to honor the spirit. Like on the way to my high school, as I would walk or bike, there's at least 5 places. And as kids, we would stop at each one. And, it is just considered normal because all these temples are open at 5 o'clock in the morning and every day, right? So on the way to school, you would stop and worship and just became part of how we go to school with a group of friends. When I moved here to the US, one day it struck me that there's actually no such place for me to stop on the way to work except for maybe like Starbucks, which is open early in the morning. Maybe gyms are open and they may have a yoga class.
Mm,
But on weekdays, there is really no place where people stop by to honor the spirit unless they have their own practice at home. And I
mm.
said, how did two cultures evolve so differently and both are high functioning? And no sooner I had said that or I thought that, uh, the Krishna temple opened just like a mile down the street from my workplace, right from the Google campus, actually. And all of a sudden, now I have the opportunity for, if I have the discipline to get up at 4:30 in the morning and stop at a temple before going to work, and you can see the morning Gaura Arati, right? Yeah, the first one. So it's amazing how you can manifest these things. So those are my two
Wow.
stories. But thank you for getting me into kirtan and giving me the confidence to get up and lead and sing. And of course, you know the Grammy story, which I won't go into here. So it's amazing how it evolved that far. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, Gopi. Those are such sweet memories of Burning Man, crazy memories too, because it was a crazy, it was a crazy experience. And I haven't been back to Burning Man since the 2011. I think I met, no, sorry, 2009, and I met you in 2008, Burning Man. Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible how these, I mean, it's just an amazing thing to witness in the lives of someone, in lives of others, and in our own life, how this sort of Krishna magic just appears in sometimes the most unlikely circumstances, or sometimes like you've experienced almost as an answer to a prayer or to a question or a thought. I love those stories. Those are my favorite stories. Thank you so much, Gopi. And anyone that doesn't know, I just realized that, of course, for some of you, I know you much more personally than anyone in the group would know. And Gopi has some beautiful recordings on that are available on streaming platforms. Most of your albums are called Kirtan Lounge, right? They're under the Kirtan Lounge.
Correct. Yeah, all three under the Kirtan Launch label. I'll
Yeah.
put it in the URL there. And since you brought it up, I'll just mention for the Sanga that what
Yeah.
started as like an amateur devotional project found its way to the Grammy this year. They've introduced a new category for new age chant and ambient music.
That's
And
right.
this album was one of the albums on the ballot. And for an amateur album, all based on Krishna devotion music. And that's when you realize there is some other energy just flowing. You're just channeling it. There's no other way to explain it, and it was remarkable just to see it on the album. And there were two devotee albums actually. One of them, I think Janavi may have been on it, which is on the nominee list, from Bhakti Without Borders by Madhi Das. So it's remarkable that this subgenre of music makes it all the way to one of the top platforms of celebrating music from around the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing it up. I'll mention it here on the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. Then people have a chance to follow your links and listen. Nisha was sharing about visiting India after many years and visiting the Krishna Museum in Kurukshetra, where this is where the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And the Jyotisar in Kurukshetra. Do you mean an astrologer? I'm assuming that's what you mean. Incredible and surreal experience. Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I have never been to Kurukshetra, but I would love to go someday. Definitely a must visit for those who have been impacted by the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe one more person would like to share. Oh, is that Brendan?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I went to the ceremony at the local temple in San Diego. I've been there before, just singing kirtan, but I never went to a full-fledged ceremony. And I really enjoyed it, and I kind of was preparing for it in a way, with some of the things that you had sent, the links that you sent and the chanting that you sent. So I kind of got psyched up for it. And no, it was just I really enjoyed the whole ceremony. It was wonderful. But my experience was after, and this has happened before at devotional ceremonies before, where I find I get like a secondary, it's like medicine that just hits very concentrated, like bliss, after the ceremony, and this happens quite a bit. And it was just so intense, because I hadn't been to a ceremony like that for a long time, and I could just feel it, in my body, just the resonation. And I think of the word medicine. That just seems to be an appropriate term. It just seems to really, kind of resonate throughout the body. And so it was just very enjoyable. And I enjoyed the whole, I kind of just took in the whole ceremony, and I didn't understand some of the things that were happening all the time. But I just, I asked some people, I would ask somebody, like I would take them aside, said, what was that? What are they doing? And stuff like that. So, but it was very enjoyable. And so just want to share that.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. I experience that too. I normally, especially after a festival, there's just like, it's like a medicinal, as you say, like it kind of penetrates very deep, and it can have a very healing feeling, and also a very, very uplifting feeling, where you just feel it's like being on a high, but not in a sort of a shallow way. It's a very it's a lot of vitality, and sort of like, oh, like this is how life could be,
Very,
it's like
very
an infusion.
deep. Yeah, it's hard to describe it. It's very hard to describe it,
Yeah, clearly we're both struggling to fully describe it.
But I think one of the things I've always experienced too with this kind of chanting and other ceremonies is that there'll be an echoing of the chanting after I finish, as I'm going home or something. It echoes in your soul. And it's just so, and it's like, you can't describe it really. Like, it's just, there's something so, it's euphoric, but there's something so like a supernatural kind of thing about it that you can't explain. And the echoing is like taking part, like in your soul and your heart. Yeah. And it's
like
just wonderful.
The soul is still chanting.
Exactly.
After the stopped.
Exactly. So.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me also of what I felt. So I also, took part in a lot of ceremonies over that festival few days. And at one moment, I just felt like, wow, this is just, it was so potent, like everything, all the
Yeah.
sensory information, you know, whether it be the smell, the sounds, the things that my eyes were seeing, everything was just like such a tonic. And so you know, it's like the type of medicine that when you're taking it, you're like, oh, please more, because it's
Yeah.
like really feeling like it's doing so much good. So
Yeah. And there's an
yeah,
illuminate, like you're saying, like your experience is illumined, like your senses are illumined from it,
yeah,
so that everything has a richness to it.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you said it was indescribable, but I think you did pretty good job describing it. So thank you. Also, I like your surroundings. That's a very beautiful spot where you are right now.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well, Bader was saying that he can't share by voice, but he's came back from a 6-week trip in Africa. May have remembered that he was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So a big round of applause for that. And he organized a kirtan the next day. He had to clean and cook and didn't even have time to unpack, but it was totally worth it. So he's on a Seva marathon, and he's actually going to be coming to Puerto Rico to the retreat that I'm leaving for on Friday. So looking forward to meet in person for the first time, even though I know you came to the concert in New York, but I don't think we had a chance to connect. So thank you all so much for being here today. And even though I said it would be a little shorter, it's not that much shorter, and it's been really enlivening for me to just hear from some of you. I always wish we had longer, because I would love to hear something from every one of you. But I know for our next Sangha, we'll be able to do a longer session. And I've also had a few other ideas that I would love to share with you. But before we go, I wanted to share a poem. I shared this last night at the gathering, the Heart Song event at the Bhakti Center. I wanted to just share this with you as a meditation. It's one that has stuck with me ever since I first heard it, maybe about 15 years ago. It's an English translation of a poem by the Saint Mirabai. She's a saint from India who was originally a princess, and she was absolutely absorbed in love for Krishna, and eventually became a wandering mendicant, and she ended up, you know, concluding her life, as far as I understand, in Vrindavan. But she was prolific writer of songs and prayers and poems. And I just love this one, and it speaks to what I was talking about just a contemplation of how quick life goes by, and what is the medicine that we need to cross over the ocean of this life. So if you like to close your eyes, sometimes it helps to absorb the sound of the words more deeply. This poem is called Awake to the Name. She says, "To be born in a human body is rare. Don't throw away the reward of your past good deeds. Life passes by in an instant. The leaf does not go back to the branch. The ocean of rebirth sweeps up all beings hard, pulls them into its cold, running, fierce, implacable currents. O Giridhara, your name is the raft, the one safe passage over. Take me quickly. All the awake ones travel with Mira, singing the name. She says with them, get up, stop sleeping. The days of a life are short." So in the short days of this life, praying that by our gathering together once a month, by all the other things that you're all doing, by sharing sacred sound, we're connecting through the sound waves, but I pray that we can all be always remembering that we have a raft to cross over this ocean that is very, as she said, fierce running currents. It's just always like this, you know. But this raft will keep us afloat. Anyone who's ever done whitewater rafting, it kind of feels a bit like that. It's not like a la la la, it's more like, whoa, it's really up and down and you got to hold on. But there is a boat, there is a raft that we can stay on. And I'm trying to remind myself of this very much. And I thank you to all of you who are part of this little group, because you are helping me to remember. Each one of you are helping each other. We're acting as reminders for each other, reminders and encouragement to stay on the raft. So until we meet again next month, I'll be praying for all of you that you have a wonderful and enlivening next few weeks. I'll post this poem in the chat, or not in the chat, on our board, message board, so you can see it. And yeah, please wish us luck going to Puerto Rico. I'm leaving on Friday and wish you could all be with us. But of course, we'll do more retreats in the future. And especially for everyone in Europe, I'm really hoping to be back in England/Europe this summer, and I'll keep you posted, of course, on all the plans. Still waiting for my papers, but I'm hoping they're going to come by the beginning of April. So fingers crossed, and pray to Krishna. So thank you all so much. Thank you especially to a few of you, Gopi, a few people I don't normally see in the group. And I know probably this different timing was probably helpful to some of you, because maybe the usual timing is not that great. And please, you know, you can always give me feedback as well. Sometimes I just choose a time that I think works, but we can always move it to later in the day if that's better for more people. So yeah, I will wish you all the best. Hare Krishna, and thank you so much. I'm going to sign off more quickly this time because my little nephew is waiting at his birthday party. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All the best, and I will wait for the recording from you, Elke. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Genevieve.